Obsidian Spears, echoes in the deep. The campaign for Kaulai IV was almost over. Once a sprawling offshore refinery complex, it had been silent for decades until the Tyranids came. Hive swarms rising from the abyss to infest its rusted gantries and barnacle-eaten storage silos. Now, after months of fighting, the Obsidian Spears were sweeping the last holdouts from the kelp-choked platforms. The tide had long since receded, leaving rusted decks slick with salt and echoing with the cries of seabirds. Waves slapped at the support pylons far below. It would have been peaceful, if not for the faint tang of burning chitin on the wind. A three-man kill team moved cautiously along the main dock. Brother Kauri took point, crouched at the edge with an auspex, scanning the skeletal frame of the maintenance tunnel ahead. His black Mark 7 plate was streaked with dried salt, and a jagged scrape along his right pauldron still bore the dull green smear of a Tyranid's ichor. A few meters back, Brother Haku stood watch with his bolt gun, the white shark-tooth motif on his left shoulder plate catching the last of the light. His stance was easy, almost lazy, but his muzzle never wavered from the shadows ahead. Heavy footfalls of a dreadnought followed them, Tahu reactor growling like a storm beneath the surface. Barnacles clung to his sarcophagus, and a rusted trident hung mag-locked to his side. One arm ended in a siege drill, the other in a graviton hammer that still dripped with Xeno's ichor from an earlier skirmish. Multiple signatures, Kauri said, twisting the auspex dial. Close. I think they're using the pipeline conduits to flank. Think faster, came Tahu's grinding reply. I am thinking, Kauri muttered, adjusting the auspex. They're jamming us. Closed loop, low frequency. You're guessing, Tahu rumbled, like a tech adept reading weather signs from fish guts. Kauri turned, helm lenses narrowing. Do you want us to walk into an ambush? I walked into ambushes before your progenoid was even warm, Tahu replied. If I still had an arse, you would be a pain in it. A chuckle filtered through the squad vox. Permission to log that for the chapter records? Haku asked. Denied, Kauri said flatly, though the smile in his voice was impossible to hide. It's a good line, Haku pressed. Might make the Hall of Wit. It will not make the Hall of Wit, Kauri said, still scanning. More like the shack of mediocrity. I've heard funnier from a servitor with a faulty vox. Before Haku could reply, the auspex chirped sharply. Movement, fast and low. Contact, Kauri warned. Finally, Tahu said, hammer raising. I was worried you'd bore them away. From the tunnel's mouth, a blur of chitin and spines burst forward. A Tyranid vanguard organism, all claws and hunger. Two more slithered behind it, darting along the wet steel like eels with teeth. Kauri fired twice, bolts detonating against the lead creature's flank, while Haku dropped one of the rear attackers with a clean headshot. The first Tyranid slammed into Tahu with the force of a crashing skiff. The grav hammer swung in a low, sweeping arc, crushing the beast in a pulse of broken gravity and splintered bone. The second leapt, scrabbling up the dreadnought's side, tearing at armored cabling. Tahu grunted, voice flat. Annoying little thing. He drove his siege drill through its torso, pinning it to the deck with a screech of metal. The corpse twitched once before sliding off into the water below. Haku advanced, firing into the shadows. That's the lot, no more on auspex. For report, called Kauri. Minor abrasions, Tahu reported, and the mild indignity of your company. You're welcome, Kauri replied, reloading. I wasn't thanking you, Tahu said. The corpses are better conversation? Kauri shook his head. How long have you been storing that one? Since before you learned to aim properly, Tahu rumbled. So not long. The old war machine turned toward the flooded bay, moonlight painting the black water in silver streaks. The wind carried the faint, unmistakable hiss of movement in the dark, a sound they all knew too well by now. That's not the tide, Kauri said, auspex spiking again. More contacts, dozens, maybe more in the water. Of course there are, Tahu growled, striding toward the pipeline tunnel. The campaign's not done until they're all mulch. This is supposed to be mopping up, Haku said, checking his ammo. This is mopping up, Tahu replied. The mop just happens to be a graviton hammer, and the bucket is whatever's left of them. The first shapes broke the surface, sleek, finned Tyranid swimmers hauling themselves up the pylons with sickle claws. One lunged onto the dock, its carapace dripping seawater, inner jaw snapping at the nearest prey. Kauri's bolter roared. Tahu's hammer came down. The dock shuddered as the second wave hit. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you have enjoyed this story.